Hi everyone, and welcome to Learning Plan 3. Here we're going to set the cornerstone and really the foundation for learning about protective factors and risk factors. When we look into the learning plans and we go through the readings, we're really truly going to learn about parenting styles. We're going to learn about how they affect delinquency, substance use, all of those sorts of things. You'll notice that the various forms of learning plans um, that everything kind of flows the same way. You'll have the same expectations. So in this particular learning plan, you have a discussion board, and you also have a survey for risk factors. So you're going to read through the material, watch the videos that are included, and then create your own survey that you would administer in a particular agency to evaluate for risk factors. So it could be a social service agency, it could be a healthcare agency, it could be really a myriad of different agencies, but really you want to make sure you're honing in on some of the specific risk factors that are present in delinquency cases. So we'd be looking at various types of parenting styles. You can be directing this at the parents themselves, you can be directing it at the youth, you can be really directing it to both. But basically, this survey has to demonstrate to me that you understand risk factors and how to measure them. You want to make sure that your questions are objective, meaning they're measurable, rather than subjective, meaning open to interpretation. So if I were to take your survey and score it, and you were to score it, we would get the same answers. So that's what we want to make sure we're doing with those surveys. Um, as far as the material itself, you're really going to see the correlation between an environment and kind of causal factors. So we see some causes, some abuse, neglect, permissive parenting, things like that, and how they interweave into delinquency. You're also going to notice other risk and protective factors, and you're going to kind of be able to see those peppered in throughout the learning plan. So I think this is a really huge kind of jump into understanding the balance between genetics, environment, and then what our role is as far as helping professionals in reducing the amount of risk factors and increasing the protective factors. So for example, if we have a youth who demonstrates a tremendous amount of risk factors, say on the survey that we take, that we give them, our job then would be to put in interventions to reduce the amount of risk factors and increase the amount of protective factors. So that's our role, really, truly, as helping professionals, is to take what we've been given, use a strength-based perspective, and implement various interventions that can use the strength to increase risk, or excuse me, increase protective factors and reduce risk factors. So I hope that makes sense. I'll be talking to you further in this learning plan about that very concept. But throughout the rest of the course, you'll see how whatever particular issue we're working with, whether it's self-harm, whether it's child abuse, whether it's um, mental health, etc., when we see risk factors, that should be a red flag to us to tell us to intervene, to tell us to reduce the amount of risk by putting interventions in place. We'll learn more about evidence-based practice. So what kind of interventions work when we're talking about delinquency? But first we have to identify the problem. And that's where we do risk evaluations, we do risk assessments. When I was a county social worker, I used to have to give between a 60 and 120 page, or excuse me, question assessment, depending on what issue I was working on. When I worked with sex offenders, same thing. What kind of risks do they present? What kind of situation are we looking at? What is the risk to reoffend? What is the risk to do well in treatment versus not do well? Just things like that that we're always going to need to be able to measure. And as our field continues to grow, we're going to need to prove that what we're doing is effective, not just that we um, like people, that we work well with people, that we're empathic, all of those things. We need to be able to show what we're doing with clients is working. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you enjoy this learning plan. I hope it kind of gives you a place to jump off of and get excited about really truly starting to make a difference with these kiddos. So I look forward to talking to you more throughout this learning plan, and I hope you really enjoy it.